Sean Diddy Combs wasn't just famous. He was untouchable, a symbol of success, style, and raw ambition. From platinum records to luxury vodka brands, from Hollywood parties to presidential photo ops, Diddy was the culture. But behind the spotlight, something sinister was brewing. Because what if the very empire that inspired millions was built on fear? Today, Diddy isn't facing headlines. He's facing handcuffs. Federal charges that read like a criminal thriller. Sex trafficking, racketeering, drug-fueled coercion, and the silencing of victims through violence and NDAs. But this story goes far beyond one man. It's pulling back the velvet curtain on an entire system. A system that protected the powerful, silenced the abused, and rewarded loyalty over truth. And now, that system is cracking. What makes this case even more explosive is who else is being dragged into it. Grammy winners, movie stars, record executives, people you've seen on red carpets, award shows, and magazine covers. Some were in the room, some helped cover it up, and some, if the accusations are true, knew exactly what was happening and chose to stay quiet. So the question isn't just is Diddy guilty, it's how many others are complicit. And as this trial unfolds, witness after witness, revelation after revelation, it's becoming clear. This isn't just a celebrity takedown. It's a reckoning for an industry that's hidden its darkest truths in plain sight. And by the time this video ends, you may never look at your favorite stars the same way again. For decades, Diddy symbolized success. His all-white Hamptons parties were the definition of status, filled with A-listers, billionaires, influencers, and royalty. These weren't just parties. They were events where power met performance, and where secrets were hidden behind designer sunglasses and velvet ropes. But now, federal prosecutors say those parties were just a facade, a glossy curtain hiding something unthinkable. Behind the glitz, they allege, Diddy orchestrated events called freak-offs, multi-day sex marathons involving young women, sex workers, drugs, and staff who were ordered to handle everything from lighting to cleanup. These weren't spontaneous escapades. They were operations, allegedly planned with military-like precision. His employees weren't just working gigs. They were allegedly aiding a criminal enterprise. And Diddy, he wasn't just attending. He was running the show. But if this is true, how did it stay hidden for so long? Who helped him maintain the illusion? And how far did the silence stretch? Cassie Ventura, known publicly as a singer and model, didn't just date Diddy. She was signed to his label, molded under his brand, and according to her sworn testimony, trapped in his world. While 8 months pregnant, she took the stand and exposed more than just abuse. She described a decade of manipulation, psychological warfare, and unrelenting fear. She claimed she was coerced into participating in freak-offs even after their relationship ended. Saying no, she said, wasn't an option. It felt like a job, she testified, one with emotional and professional penalties. Her career, her identity, her freedom, everything was controlled. Cassie said she lived in fear of retaliation, of exposure, of violence. This wasn't just a broken relationship. This was survival under control. But what she said next, names, places, witnesses, stunned the court even more. Cassie didn't just tell her story, she exposed the ecosystem around it. She dropped names, ones the world recognized instantly. Britney Spears, Dallas Austin, Michael B. Jordan. She testified they were present at critical moments, such as her 21st birthday in Las Vegas, where she shared her first kiss with Diddy. A party Diddy had arranged, populated with icons to impress and to assert control. Michael B. Jordan, she claimed, was someone she may have had a brief connection with, and that alone allegedly enraged Diddy. The prosecution isn't claiming these celebrities were involved in wrongdoing, but their presence makes one thing undeniable. Diddy had access, influence, and the ability to place Cassie in rooms filled with power. These names were tools to impress, control, and isolate her. So what did they really see? What conversations happened after the cameras stopped flashing? And more importantly, What did they ignore? Kid Cudi didn't go public on social media or break his silence in a podcast. He testified under oath, directly in court. Calm but firm, he revealed that during a brief period when Cassie was separated from Diddy, they began seeing each other. But almost immediately, Cassie feared for their safety. She sent a chilling email to her mother, using a fake alias, warning that Diddy had threatened to release explicit tapes and have someone physically harm both her and Cudi. Even more disturbing, Diddy allegedly said he'd be out of the country when it happened. Just days later, Cudi's Porsche exploded in his driveway. Not keyed, not slashed. Exploded. On the stand, Cudi described returning home to find his security cameras disabled, his belongings tampered with, and his dog locked in the bathroom. Prosecutors argue this wasn't just intimidation, it was retaliation. And under racketeering law, arson isn't just a violent act. It's a legal building block to prove an organized criminal enterprise. The timing, the method, the fear. It all matched exactly what Cassie had warned about. So is this a coincidence or a message? What kind of power lets a man make threats, have them come to life in detail, and still believe he's immune to consequences? That's what the prosecution is daring the jury to face head-on. The defense wants the jury to believe this was all jealousy, a broken love story spiraling out of control. But the testimony suggests something far more sinister. Cassie says she was signed to a 10-album contract, yet nothing she recorded was ever released. Her career, finances, and personal life were allegedly controlled entirely by Diddy. Even after their breakup, she claims she was forced to continue freak-offs. She wasn't staying out of affection. She was trapped. Financially, contractually, emotionally. This wasn't romance. It was psychological warfare. She was given the illusion of fame and success, while everything she worked for was held hostage. The longer she stayed, the harder it became to escape. Every attempt to leave came with threats, and every act of compliance came with deeper shame. When love turns into fear and contracts become cages, what kind of relationship is that really? Nayo, Jimmy Iovine. These aren't just household names, they're icons. And according to Dawn Rashard, former Danity Kane member, they weren't just present in Diddy's world. They were witnesses. She testified that Diddy physically assaulted Cassie right in front of them, and no one intervened. Not a word, not a move, just silence. And they weren't the only ones. Harve Pierre, longtime president of Bad Boy Records and one of Diddy's closest confidants, was also named. Rashard recalled a moment when Harvey leaned in and said, "It gets dark and lonely if you don't listen." That wasn't advice. It was a warning, soft-spoken, but razor-sharp. The courtroom is now grappling with a haunting question. How many powerful people saw what was happening and chose to look away? How many heard the screams behind closed doors, sensed the danger, and still kept quiet? And what does that say about a system where silence protects power, and speaking up means exile? In Hollywood, staying close to the throne often means swallowing the truth. But at what cost? Witnesses describe Diddy's empire not as a business, but as a monarchy built on fear. Artists and staff were expected to obey without question. Those who challenged him were berated, replaced, or blacklisted. Dawn Rashard described it as the kingdom, a place where fear wasn't an accident. It was the foundation. Former staff told stories of being sent on demeaning errands, berated on reality shows, and silenced through contracts and intimidation. Even his assistant, known as Bentley, became infamous for rushing around under impossible demands. There was no room for boundaries, no tolerance for questioning. It was a machine fueled by compliance. And anyone who resisted, they weren't just removed, they were erased. If what they say is true, then this wasn't just a toxic workplace. It was an ecosystem designed to keep people scared, isolated, and under control. This case is no longer about one man. It's about a culture that allowed him to thrive unchecked. With each new day of testimony, new names surface. From Cassie's unreleased music to Kid Cudi's destroyed car, and now whispers of others behind the scenes, Hollywood is holding its breath. Will more celebrities be named? Will more victims step forward? The prosecution has already proven that this isn't a tabloid trial. It's a mirror to an industry that has protected its kings for too long. And as the case unfolds, it's clear. The spotlight is about to shine on everyone who was part of the kingdom. This isn't just a fall from grace. It's a long overdue exposure of the systems that allowed it all to happen. And if sources are right, one of the next names to be called to the stand might be someone no one ever expected. What started as rumors has become one of the most explosive trials in entertainment history. Sean "Diddy" Combs, once seen as untouchable, is now fighting for his freedom. The testimonies don't just allege misconduct. They outline a system of abuse and control spanning years, and possibly dozens of people. As the prosecution builds its case, one thing becomes certain. Diddy's empire wasn't built on talent alone. It may have also been built on fear, silence, and exploitation. And as his kingdom crumbles, he may not be the only one who falls. If you're just as shocked as we are and want the real truth behind Hollywood's darkest secrets, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon. You won't want to miss what's coming next, because this story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. And who shows up next in court? You won't believe it.